Hi, my name is A Tijerina. I am the Regional Sepsis Program Manager for Kaiser Permanente, Northern California region. It is truly an honor today to talk about and provide commentary on the article titled JBI's Evidence Implementation Approach, a 7-phase process model to support and guide giving evidence into practice. Now, this article comes from a very prolific group of writers out of the University of Adelaide in South Australia. This group literally wrote the book on a JBI implementation. What I'm talking to and I'm referencing is the JBI Handbook for Evidence Implementation, which means even if I wasn't doing a video commentary, I would read this article and do my best to implement it anyways, because I have great respect for this group. I also want to acknowledge the JBI implementation methodology group for their contributions to the article and to the larger implementation science field in general. In the article, the team covers a couple of key points. One, what they do is they identify a systematic and pragmatic approach to evidence implementation. They named the JBI model of evidence-based healthcare, more specifically the evidence implementation wedge or portion, and I'll show you a picture of that here in a second, as a method to address the needs of an organization. They also review other tools used in implementation science as a way of showing why they believe the JBI model is the best way to go. And I think they provide a really good approach on evidence implementation, and they go into detail over certain aspects of it. Let me show you really quick, in case you haven't seen it, the JBI model of evidence-based healthcare. While this is important, this evidence implementation needs to fit into a larger model. Specifically, what I like is this idea that any evidence has to be feasible, appropriate, meaningful, and effective. As an article, probably many articles written by my mentor, Elizabeth Scruth, not to mention myself and Dr. Thomas Russell, also wrote an article about the power and the requirement of being a knowledge broker. And knowledge brokers have to make sure they're reviewing the research and they know it's adequately powered. So is it feasible? Is it going to fit in the context of their healthcare organization? Is it appropriate? Is it truly meaningful? Meaning, are they trying to solve a solution? They're trying to get to the outcome that they're looking to get for? And is it effective? Will what they're trying to implement truly be effective? The other thing I really like about this model, there's a lot of it, to be honest with you, is the overarching principles of culture, capacity, communication, and collaboration. You have to know the culture of who you're trying to implement the evidence to. Do they have the capacity? We frequently go to our chief nursing executives in our hospitals and say, hey, we have a date range we'd like to implement. What is your capacity to do so? And if not, what can we do to help you reach that capacity? Clear communication, knowing across the board who to communicate to, how to communicate them, when to communicate, and of course, collaborating. Healthcare is not in a bubble, it is interprofessional, and therefore we make sure we collaborate interprofessionally. Now, what I really appreciate to talk about is they go into deeper and they look at more of the 7 phases. Now, in my current role as Regional Sepsis Program Manager, I've been part of teams who has developed and implemented pediatric sepsis pathways across the 21 medical center. We've recently, in the past couple of years, we've updated our tools to make our ED, or emergency department sepsis identification and pathway, technology enabled. We took the very same technology, we implemented it into the inpatient adult med-surg population. We went from 1 pilot center to 21 medical centers, and then now we're doing it for maternal sepsis. All this becomes important. So as they go through in this article and they're reviewing each of the different phases, and I'm going to pull that up here in a second so you can take a look at it. This is something that's very germane to me and my role. And if you were someone that does performance improvement on a unit level or at a regional level or at a national level, I beg you to pay attention and really read through this article because I think it can help guide your practice if you're not already using that. So let's go ahead and let's go back to their JBI implementation framework. You can see in phase 1, you identify practice areas, problems with stakeholders. I also teach for Samuel Muir University, and I'm talking to my scholars all the time when they're doing their performance improvement projects. Do you know what you're trying to change? Do you know if you need that change? Is there data to support that you need that change? I'll often go back to them and say, well, what is keeping your C&E or your C-suite up at night? That's what you want to kind of focus on and get it implemented. So identify the practice area, problems with, and then engage your stakeholders through that. And then the article goes into more detail. Engage change agents. I love this. If you have one person who is influential, who is a change agent, and they don't like your project, they can squash your project. Equally important, if you have one or two people who have a lot of influence and you can convince them, if you have a good enough business case for them, they can make your project for you. So I love the phase 2 and how important that is. Phase 3, assess context and readiness for change. Is the site, the unit, the people you are trying to positively impact, are they ready for the change? Phase 4, review practice against evidence-based criteria. Are we doing the best evidence? And I would add in here, and I believe they talk about it a little bit, if not, experience as well. We have the evidence, but there's also experience. Prime example is the sepsis guidelines came out and they downgraded the suggestion for fluids recently, but we know from internal research and from internal experience that fluids make a statistically significant difference on outcomes, namely mortality and readmission. So sometimes we have to balance the best evidence with our best experience and our internal data as well. Phase 5, implement change to practice using GRIP or getting research into practice, which the authors go through and they will explain more of it to you. Phase 6, reassess practice. Are we getting what we thought we would get? This is where, and they talk about PDSA. I love the fact about PDSA. You had a study do, act and go, we want to adapt, adopt, abandon. What are we going to do with it? So make sure you're getting the change you wanted to get. Is this evidence getting you the results you needed to get? Phase 7, consider sustainability. There has to be some level of sustainability. Often programs are launched and all the support, all the grant money, everything else is gone, and then it's dead in the water. So I encourage you, if you are someone who is looking to implement a project in your facility at a local level, regional level, or national level, take a look at the JBI implementation framework. Read this article. Consider going to the JBI training. And by the way, I have nothing to disclose. I don't work for JBI. I just happen to be a big fan of their products. I hope you found this useful. And if you have any questions, as always, please make sure that you reach out to your JBI representatives. Thank you so much.